Okay, we're live now.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Greetings, commissioners, staff, everybody, please put your phone on silent. We will call this meeting to order. This is our work session agenda virtually. It's October the 19th, 2020 at 3:32 p.m. Mr. Everson, roll call vote. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Burrell.
Here.
Commissioner Cathorn.
Present.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Present.
I didn't even see you log on. Glad to hear you. Commissioner Talaferro.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Adkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Present.
All right. I'm counting that we have 10 out of 12 present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Commissioners, we're going to have our invocation by Commissioner Epperson, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Adkins.
I'm going to do an invocation from a biblical standpoint. Matthew, the 5th chapter, the 42nd through the 48th verse. Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not thou away. Ye have heard that it had been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil as well as the good, and sendeth the rain on the just as well as the unjust. For if ye love them which love you, that reward have ye. Do not even the publicans do the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans do so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father, which is in heaven, is perfect. May God add a blessing to the reader, the hearers, and the doers of his word. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Okay, if you all would please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Retired and active duty military may render a salute, and first responders may also render a salute. All others, put your hand over your heart, please, and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the United States of America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Epperson and Commissioner Adkins. Mr. Everson, do you have any agenda additions?
I've not received any agenda additions unless you're aware of any.
I have none either. Moving along.
Okay, that brings us to citizens' comments. For citizens' comments today, we do have one that we've received electronically. If it's all right, I'll go ahead and give out that phone number. And then I know we have a couple of people who are actually on the call today who are logged in through Zoom that were wanting to make public comments as well. So,
Awesome.
all right, I will start with that phone number. It's 226-6596. Again, that's 318-226-6596 if anybody would like to call in, and we will connect you to make a public comment. And I believe I think I just heard a call coming in, but we will wait. While we're doing that, I know there are a few people that have joined us. I know I spoke with, communicated with Mr. Ante earlier. I don't know if he wanted to go or if you want to.
If he's on, yeah, let's get, I know Ken bills by the hour, so let's get him on and get him off.
I wish I was billing. Thank you, Chairman Chavez and Jeff and commissioners. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank y'all for allowing me to serve as your designee to the Shreveport-Bossier Sports Commission. Earlier today, well, I think I delivered. I gave it to Whittington. So, Dr. Wilson, if you didn't get it, let me know.
Yes, sir, I got it.
Okay. But I wanted to thank y'all for giving me the opportunity. Effective October 31st, I'm resigning from the Sports Commission. It was an honor to serve on it and to be one of the founding board members. I think the board has done a lot of good things. When it was first started with Dr. Wilson and John Escaday and others, I think it was envisioned to be a little different than what it was, but nonetheless, it's been a good board. I've had the privilege of serving with John Escaday and then Lyndon, who I see is now on for the last few years on the board. And I want to say that the parish was well represented. And I think the parish between John and myself and Lyndon was probably the most vocal organization on there. But I just wanted to let y'all know that I did tender my resignation, and I do appreciate it. If there's anything I can do for the parish, please do not hesitate to call me. I'd still like to serve the parish any way I can. I just felt like that after 9 years, it was probably time to move on and maybe get another fresh face and on behalf of the commission. So that's all I had. Appreciate it and good luck. If anybody has any question, I'll be glad to answer any.
I believe Vice President Johnson, is that you pressing the button?
Yeah, I was trying to. Am I on or
yes,
am I
sir.
on mute? Yeah, I just want to say one thing. I really appreciate working with Ken on the sports commission. It has been very knowledgeable. He's been very knowledgeable on a lot of the sporting events and how to get some of these sporting events here. And I really appreciated that time that I got to know you and know how to get some of those things done.
Well, to the chagrin of a lot of people, I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be here.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thanks, Vice President. Mr. Ante, I believe that's all that I have on the participation board. So thank you for all your years of service to Caddo Parish. And I know you said you're not going anywhere, so we still may call on you a lot because we need your advice. You got a wealth of knowledge up there.
No problem. And good luck on the 3 propositions.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
just as a matter of information, point of information, in terms of the appointment to the commission, is there a format like so many commissioners versus civilian, or how does that work in terms of appointments?
Attorney Fraser, can you elaborate on how we will roll Mr. Ante off and what that vacancy will look like?
I'm not sure how many or how long there is left in a term as to whether or not he would be appointed, but he would be appointed, whomever would be appointed for the remainder of the term, and then likely come up again when it's time for your appointments.
Commissioner Burr, what we'll do is I'll get you a solid answer by Thursday. Mr. Everson advised me we have a caller waiting on the phone, so we'll get them on the phone. And Attorney Fraser, if you can have us that answer on Thursday, we'll move on from that.
Also, Mr. President, I just want to know whether or not that the person has to be a civilian or a commission member.
You have to beat Commissioner Johnson in a pickle race from first base to second. He won last time, so I'm just kidding, guys. We'll find that information out for you as well, Commissioner.
Okay.
Well, we'll be set up the first time, Mr. President. We'll be set up the first time is that there was a member of the commission and then there was a citizen in the community.
That's correct.
So we have 2 seats on the advisory board.
Okay, because I know he mentioned Escaday, and in terms of the rest of you, so I thought it might have been 3. Thank you, Mr. President.
I took yesterday's spot.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I got Commissioner Epperson.
Okay, I got 3 people that text me and stated that it says waiting for meeting host to let them in. I don't know what that means.
It's on the Zoom. Mr. Everson, will you check on that while he's the host?
We do have a number of people who we were unaware of if they were, you know, how they got the login information. So it does take us a little bit longer when we're not sure who someone is to figure out who they are to let them in. But we will gladly, if you're expecting 3 people and we've got anyone in the waiting room, we'll go ahead and let them in.
I don't know. They just text. Okay.
Yeah, we want to guarantee we don't have somebody hijack the meeting like has happened with some other people, some other entities. Mr. Everson, let's let that caller talk and we'll go from there.
That sounds great. Michelle, can we get the caller hooked up? She's working on it right now.
For the records, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak, okay? Okay, you can go ahead with your comment.
All right, thank you very much. To the commissioners, my name is Dr. Will James, resident of District 3. Thank you for the time to speak today. One of the people that is 3 different points. The first topic would actually be for my personal experience with going through.
Mr. Chairman, we cannot hear him.
That actually started on last week. With that, with all the forward, was actually working inside the pools. Awesome job. I just wanted to give commendation for that. It was actually it was less than 15 minutes for the process. And
Dr. James.
so with that, once you get inside, it's.
Dr. James? Sir? Hello? He just hung up.
Next one.
Yeah, sorry about that. Something was going wrong with that phone connection, so hopefully he will call back. It was feeding back into the microphone.
Hey, Jeff?
Yes.
Hey, is there any possible way you can just give him a call back or wait until at the very end to give him a call back? At least give him a courtesy call and let him know that we want to hear what he has to say.
It does sound like he's calling back right now, but it sounds like our phone is ringing at the moment. So hopefully that is him, but we will reach out to him if he doesn't. Would you like me to read the comment that was received electronically while we wait?
Sure.
Okay. This comment comes from Kay Proby. And Kay says, good morning. As part of my assessment of the urgency for additional early voting locations in Caddo Parish and Shreveport, Louisiana, individuals who are physically disabled and the elderly should be given more consideration to make voting more convenient. I carried my 81-year-old blind uncle to early vote on Friday, October 16th. I watched hundreds of individuals with physical disabilities lined up to vote, some wheelchair bound, some on oxygen, having difficulties breathing, blind, and other disabilities. As far as my blind uncle, having access to public restroom was an issue. Perhaps more consideration should be given to public restroom accessibility for all voters. Perhaps specific allocated times and days could be considered to accommodate individuals with physical disabilities, so the wait time might be shortened for all voters. Perhaps free parking can be considered to accommodate all voters, including individuals with physical disabilities and the elderly, so potential voters would not have to leave the voting line to feed meters, etc. The influx of voters, in particular voters with physical disabilities during the COVID-19 pandemic, meant that already overburdened early voting polling location would be very much overwhelmed. I ask on behalf of individuals with physical disabilities that these concerns be considered in the future. And that concludes her comment.
Thank you, Mr. Everson.
And if I could, is the assistant clerk, do we have the caller back on the line? Sounds like we have another caller.
Hear me? Jeff, can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, hold on one moment. I'll pick up the line and let's see. Hello, Pastor Ellison. Hi, hold on one moment. I'm gonna put you on speaker. Go ahead and state your name for the record and you'll have 3 minutes, okay? All right, hold on one second, please. Okay, you can go ahead with your comment.
Yes, this is Pastor Marcus Ellison, Mount Olive Baptist Church in Greenwood.
can go ahead with your comment.
I just wanted to just inform the commission that talking with Brother Ken Epperson, one of the things we are planning in the Mount Olive Baptist Church community on the corner of 169 and Buncombe Road is to develop our property and to probably put in a assisted living complex down there within the next 10 to 15 years, and to be able to have water running from the Greenwood community. The city of Greenwood would be a great benefit for us at the church. We already have a 18,000 multi-purpose facility down there that hosts weddings and banquets and things of that nature. And we have a well system down there. So to be able to tap into the water at the city of Greenwood would be a great benefit as we try to bring more economic development to the Greenwood on the corner of 169 and Buncombe Road. Any help from the city of Greenwood and the Caddo Parish Commission would be beneficial. Thank you for your time and your service.
Does that conclude your comment?
Yes, it does.
Okay, have a great day.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I believe we have another caller holding now.
Yeah, on Zoom meeting. Bye-bye.
Dr. James? Okay, I am so sorry. We're having issues with our speaker, but if you hold on one moment, I'll put you back on speaker and state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes, okay? All right. Oh, you're welcome. Hold on 1 second, please. Hello, sir. You can go ahead.
All right. Hello, commissioners again. I apologize for whatever technical difficulties were experienced there. My name is Dr. Will James. I'm a resident of District 3. Wanted to speak on 3 different topics. Not sure how much was heard before the call was lost before, so I'll go ahead and reiterate again. The first was regarding the actual early voting process once you made it inside the registrar's office. With that, I just want to give mad kudos and props to the staff that are actually working inside the polling location. Once I made it inside, and I don't know about everybody else's experience, but it took about 10, maybe 12 minutes total to get through the full process of waiting to get validated with my information, going to the booth and coming outside. So once again, to Mr. Siblinger's crew, when I went in, like I stated, speedy process when I made it inside. The second topic that I wanted to speak on was actually the topic of electioneering and the electioneering posts that are actually spread around the polling location through downtown, primarily with the signs that are posted from Marshall Street to Texas Street and back around Edward Street to where it meets at Milam Street. With that, what I observed when I did my early voting on Friday was a representative, Edward Mouton, who was actually violating the electioneering signs. He actually cut through the crowd with a couple of campaign yard signs, asked Mickey, the hot dog guy that sets up at Texas and Edward Street, if he could put it up. And yeah, so putting the campaign signs, I'm not sure if that's something the commission was made aware of. I know that the registrar's office was made aware of it, and they sent a deputy out to have the signs removed, but just wanted to see what could be done as far as making sure that that wasn't an ongoing process over the remaining days of the early voting. The third and final topic I wanted to speak on was actually as far as professional responses by our commissioners. Listening to the invocation that Commissioner Epperson gave today, it kind of reflects on this. I've noticed a lot of people asking questions of different commissioners on social media, and some of the responses haven't been professional, in my opinion. If it's the first time speaking with someone, or even if it's being put out there for the edification of the public, with that, someone stating that they were limited on the time that they were allowed to vote. So they had to wait 3 hours because this is probably going to be the only time they had to vote. The response to that by one particular commissioner was, "Who told you to wait 3 hours? You have other days to go to." Well, if that's the only time, everybody doesn't work in downtown Shreveport. Some people work 12-hour shifts, so they're definitely going to miss, the time, or if they're working overtime and so on and so forth. So with that, I just ask that any responses that are given by the public that are asking about the waiting process or what's the status on a second or alternate location for early voting, I just ask, even though it's a commissioner's private page, since they are still representing the citizens that they're serving, that they be professional when it comes to addressing those particular topics. Otherwise, it comes off as chastising. Thank you so much for your time, and may you all enjoy the rest of your week.
Does that conclude your comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, have a good day. Bye-bye. And that's all the callers we had holding.
Thank you, Deputy Nations.
You're welcome.
Mr. Everson, does that conclude the citizens' comments?
It does from phone and electronic comments. I'm not sure if there is anybody else who has logged in that was here to make a citizen's comment. I know we have a couple of mayors that are on the line for resulting from discussions from the Economic Development Committee meeting the other day. I don't know if either of them wanted to take this opportunity to make a brief comment, or
what we can do is, since we have a couple new callers on the Zoom meeting, any callers that have zoomed in with us, if you look on the bottom, you'll see the participation button. Click on that, and then you can raise your hand, and then the host can unmute you, and then you can make your citizen's comment. We'll give a brief moment for that, just in case anybody that jumped on the Zoom jumped on to make a citizen comment. All right, I see none. We can wait till later if the mayors wanted to speak on that. Mr. Everson, we'll continue along with the agenda.
Sounds great. Thank you. We'll move on to visitors. We're not doing visitors under teleconference officially. So
Mr. Clerk, may I have a point of information?
Of course.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dr. Wilson, at our last meeting, I'd asked that Registrar Voter Dale Sibley be present at this meeting. And you emailed me personally, but I would like, since we made that request publicly, that you would state the situation there publicly.
Okay, we did reach out to Mr. Dale Sibley, and he told us because of the election and his involvement in it, he did not have time to appear before any of our meetings. But he would be inclined to answer any questions you may have via email.
And Dr. Wilson, I think since he being an appointed public official, would you give his email out so the citizens may, if they have questions, submit it to him directly?
Yes, sir. Let me look it up real quick, and I'll provide it for you before the meeting's over.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Everson, moving along, we're on to
that brings us to reports. We're at the administrator's report, where you'll see we do have a certificate for teleconference attached, and the administrator has submitted a report and has a couple items. So,
all right.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioner Chavez, and also everyone else.
Good afternoon.
We did have just a financial report for September that you should have received already, the expense report. We typically give you monthly. I just want to make a couple of comments relative to the comments about the voting. We did put the canopy up, as you may be aware, adjacent to the building, so the folks could be out of the weather somewhat. We also provide bottled water to the citizens that are in line if they desire it. And we also have some chairs along the path of the waiting line. And we also have spoken with Mr. Sibley. There is access to a public bathroom that ADA compliant. So most of the citizens with a disability can park in front of the building and go to the head of the line. So they don't have to wait in the line at all. So they can just go right up. There is a staff person from the registrar's office standing outside the door that will assist and orchestrate the process for them. So they don't have to talk to anybody else. Just tell them that they have a disability and they will be ushered to the front of the line. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. They don't have to wait in a long line. They can go, if you have a disability, to the front of the line. Also, the election near signage, I think the process was handled appropriately by Mr. Sibley sending a deputy sheriff out to investigate that. I'll touch base with him again tomorrow and make sure that that's not the issue. So anyway, that's all I have by way of my administrative report, unless someone has something for me.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Give me one moment. Commissioner Burrell, I have Vice President Johnson on the board, and then I'll take you next.
Okay.
Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, I do appreciate the parish putting those awnings out. But as of Friday and Saturday, the awnings were really too short. The line was
lengthwise, you mean?
2 Texas Street. It
Yes.
was 2 Texas Street and down to Edward Street, and back down Edwards on Friday and Saturday.
That's correct.
So that was a long line. I don't know about today. I hadn't got an update on how the line was moving today.
It was long today.
But over the weekend,
it was
over
long
the weekend,
today,
it was extremely long. And I did see the water out there for the citizens as well. And I did witness a senior citizen that had a disability was able to move up to the front of the line to be able to get in to go vote. So I just want to verify those things that you did say. It did happen as I was down there this weekend, just trying to make sure that we had some things that we could do to make it better for some of the citizens. And I did see some chairs too along the sidewalk for people to sit down on as well. So I want to appreciate you and making sure our staff had those things out there for the early voting over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And, basically the other part I want to say too is, I feel embarrassed for our parish because we only got this one location, and we having our citizens to stand in long lines. Some people stand in line 3 and 4 hours. That we could have rectified it and had another location, so that could have been broken up into 2 locations, readily accessible to everyone. And it becomes an issue of, well, we waited too long before the register of voters could actually make something happen. But there again, I always will say that the fairgrounds was available. The lines were already in, and it was a plug and play situation that all you had to do was bring the machines in, plug them in, and have security there, and you got another voter registration location. So I'm not happy on how things are going now for as that is concerned, but based upon what we've gotten in place, that's the best we can do. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, can comment on that, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Secretary of Office did call me on this last Friday, and he said that he did receive our letter that we sent asking for the additional sites, and he would be working with us after the first of the year, after they get through this current election process that's coming up into December. He said January sometime they'll be getting back in touch with us to work out the additional sites.
Well, that's just like having dessert 2 days after a meal.
Yeah, yes, sir, that's correct. I agree with that. And he did tell me that it takes a 90-day process from start to finish to put in a new site. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. So we are actively seeking additional sites because we thought we had to stop with legislation first, but the process is to stop with the Secretary of State and make a request known. And then, which we did, and we did ask for 3 additional sites beyond the one we got now. And so we'll see how far that will take us. Mr. Dale Sibley's email address, Commissioner Epperson, is dsibley@caddo.org. That's dsibley@caddo.org.
And Dr. Wilson, can we also have someone from staff take pictures of those long lines for documentation that we can give to the Secretary of State?
Yes, sir, we will. And Commissioner Johnson,
Okay, thank you.
the line was 3 blocks long this morning.
Okay, and if we, yeah, we can actually take pictures of that and have for documentation and show that we need additional early voting location.
Yes, sir, we will.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. That's it, Mr. President, on me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too have received a number of calls from constituents concerning the long lines. I recognize that this is probably one of the exceptional elections and probably caught, I wouldn't say with our pants down, but caught in a very precarious situation. But I think we did anticipate this early enough that we could have possibly got something done a little better than what we're dealing with. But the questions that I have, the two questions I have, Dr. Wilson, is how are we, first of all, how are we educating the public on the accommodation for the disabled? Because if those lines are that long and people don't know that they can come to the front, then they're going to wind up going to, you know, wherever they fit in the line. And unless we have some signage that talks about that or a public announcement that talks about that, then they would not know. So I'm asking that because these are some things that we can do despite the Secretary of State, despite the voter register's office and that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, Commissioner Burrell, I definitely, we personally haven't done any advertisement towards that endeavor, but I certainly will check and see if we can get some signs placed along the sidewalk to let them know that if you have a disability, please go see the clerk to move towards the head of the line. So we have not personally educated anyone on that process. We typically don't get involved in the voting process to that extent, but we can see what we can do to help mitigate the current situation by informing them about what's available right now.
Well, I think we can do that kind of immediately and have some great results on that, just things that we can do. The second thing that I have here is this 90-day, is that the maximum time for setting up an early voting site, or is that the exact time? Because, you know, I recognize that, you know, we can make every excuse in the world, not saying that we are making it.
Yeah.
But if someone state that if they haven't set up one and then they say, well, we need to give them 90-day maximum, that doesn't necessarily mean on the emergency situation that we are under right now, we can't do it less than that. Yeah. It's just that we have to hopefully flex our authority, if we have any, to try to shorten that time.
Yeah. Commissioner Burrell, I did reach out to the Secretary of State office this morning and asked that question. What could you do for us in a state of emergency such as a pandemic? And they were going to get back to me with the answer. I haven't gotten a call back yet, but we did call this morning and asked that question.
Well, that seems as though that's a question that he can answer, since he's been responsible for setting up sites elsewhere, and he has quite a bit of authority in terms of when this site will be up and going, as well as the registrar's office.
Yes, sir. And I do anticipate an answer back today, but I haven't got one as of right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, for right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Adkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to compliment the staff and my colleagues on the commission for their foresight to arrange for chairs and water and some cover along Edward Street there. Unfortunately, I, for one, was caught off guard by the length of the lines, particularly on Friday. I've voted downtown for 20 years and I've never seen a line approaching that, but I think that just illustrates the unique nature of this particular election cycle. So, but again, I want to thank my colleagues who had the foresight to think to have chairs and water and cover out on portions of that line. And also wanted to reiterate Commissioner Burrell's suggestion that we put some signage up that maybe is flexible, like on a little stand, and as the line grows, the stand can go out, giving the elderly and disabled the option to move to the front of the line. So just wanted to at those two bits. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Adkins. Next on the list is Commissioner Watts.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I want to say to the citizens of Caddo Parish that I am super proud of 11,000 citizens getting out over the weekend to cast their votes. And even if you feel suppressed during this election, I want you to be encouraged and let nothing stop you. Continue to go to our one location. We've had a lot of talk around this for at least 4 years about trying to set up early voting satellite locations. I've always had a vision for the north, south, east, and west to be served, especially now during this historic election that we are participating in at this time. I have a couple questions, Dr. Wilson.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there or has there been any conversation around the current mandate of 90 days to establish the early voting locations? Does that apply during a pandemic, a public health emergency like we're facing right now?
Commissioner Gage Watts, I did make the call this morning from our conversation we had this weekend.
Yes.
And I asked that question this morning, and I haven't gotten the answer back from the Secretary of State office yet. But I did ask the question, what is the condition for an emergency such as a pandemic? And,
yes.
And they said they will get back with me on the answer, and I haven't gotten it yet.
Okay. Thank you so much for that response. I hope to hear from them soon because I believe there's still time. As I've said before, we've been able to make accommodations overnight with a lot of things. So I think that this is one that requires extreme measures as well. I went to vote on Saturday and I was in line for about 2 hours and 38 minutes. And there are 14 machines that are set up on the inside. However, it was only about 3 of them that were active that you could actually use. The accommodations for the handicap was awesome. You know, people would pull up and they could go right in. And I think that we need to make sure that the public knows that so that they know they don't have to wait in line, that they can come right to the front and go ahead and vote. There were people who were very patient. It was very solemn. It was serious. People are taking this very serious, as they should. But we also want to be able to provide them what they need in a safe environment. And they were doing everything right as far as sanitizing and giving you your pen. So it was a good experience once I got on the inside, but the wait in line is not always appropriate for everyone. So I just want to remind you to take the time out, you know, make sure that you make a plan for it. If you're going to be there a while, you know, if it's the day that you need to take off to do it, if you want to early vote. Also, I think that I heard on a newscast that we are waiting on a vote from the commission before the voter registrar's office to move forward. Are we waiting on any additional votes, Dr. Wilson?
No, ma'am. We took the legislation you all passed, the resolution, and presented that to the register of voters for his actions to take.
Okay. I just wanted to make that, you know, public record for everyone to let them know that you're not waiting on anything else from the commission. We have already allocated the funds in the budget for 2020. So I just want the public to know that as the commission body, we have made the proper steps and we are not waiting on anything to happen on the commission level.
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
President.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I got a question for administration right quick. Just a point of clarification. Are we using parish dollars to run the Zoom meeting?
Yeah. Yes, we are.
We have an inappropriate sign up. It's down now, but well, no, it's still up. We got an inappropriate sign up.
Are you referring to the one that says Biden 2020 or Biden 2020?
Well, one has said Paul Wood, and the answer is Biden. Yeah, so.
Well, I'm just going to say that.
I'm
just going to say that the parish platform may be paying for it, but it would be no different than me wearing a T-shirt, as I've always worn a T-shirt to support people that I support in the chamber. And nobody, I mean, would I be kicked out of the chamber No, I've never been kicked out of the chamber. I've worn my campaign t-shirt to parish functions. Have I been told that I can't attend those functions? I've never been told. So this is my Zoom account, and I can participate in my First Amendment right. So let's be mindful that I do have a First Amendment.
Actually, this is the parish Zoom account.
Well, but
my
First Amendment, Mr. Chairman, my First Amendment right does not end.
But you don't even have the floor.
Well, my First Amendment. Okay, I'll yield the floor. You're right.
Thank you, commissioners. Attorney Frazier, can you grant an opinion on this?
Well, her opinion is just her opinion.
Yes, my opinion is my opinion, and it's one that I get paid for. So let me do what I get paid for. In this particular case, as I have let Commissioner Jackson know, we are running into problems if we are on any parish platforms where it's determined that parish dollars are being used in support of or against of a candidate or issue. And that anybody so doing will be personally responsible for any fines or any other activities or penalties that may be associated with it. Because as I have now informed the parish at large and the elected officials, this is a problem.
Well, that's a responsibility that I'm willing to accept if there's somebody who wishes to take it up and challenge it.
Chairman, you see my hand down?
Commissioner Epperson, you're right after Commissioner Hopkins, and I have two more commissioners that would like to speak, Burrell and Cathorn. Attorney Frazier, thank you for your opinion. Commissioner Jackson, we'll take that opinion and we'll go forward with that. And you've already stated your opinion, so we'll move along, guys, so we can continue this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson, for bringing that to our attention. Commissioner Hopkins, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to take a couple minutes of personal privilege, if possible.
Absolutely.
I wanted to thank all the my colleagues and all the staff for the prayers and the checking in on me the last 3 weeks. I've been able to see the inside of 3 different hospitals over the last 3 weeks, and it's finally good to be home. Making progress, but I really do appreciate the prayers, because prayer is strong and they make a difference, and they really have in my case. And I just want to thank each one of you. Thank you.
Amen, brother.
Amen. Welcome back, Todd.
Yeah. Amen.
Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir. On Friday, I don't know if you all may have the figures, but Friday, the 16th, the first day, it was 1,070 early votes cast. And on Saturday, the 17th, it was 1,500. Also, we're speaking in reference to situations relative to the pandemic. Isn't the special session that was called that's ongoing now until the end of this month in place to address any kind of emergency things with the pandemic? And where are our senators and our state representatives? It appears to me that the thing that we're talking about here, some of those things should be taken up in that emergency session. After all, they vote, and they have to be voted for too at some point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Dr. Wilson, I'll ask if you get Commissioner Epperson some answers, not today, but just for Thursday, to advise on what the Baton Rouge is doing for those.
Okay.
Commissioner Cathorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hey, I want to chime in and echo the sentiments of my fellow commissioners as it relates to the resilience we've seen with our fellow citizens and being patient as it relates to standing in line for the voting situation. But we'd like to continue as many accommodations as possible with a situation that befell upon us. Secondly, I had a couple people over the weekend sent me some emails and some text messages beating up on the commission for not having a second location for people for persons to vote at. And I also explained to them, and I want to make sure I present this to Dr. Wilson and Attorney Frazier. I did explain to them that we were, during this year, had been working on some earlier locations, but I also wanted to chime in to let them know that if the registrar had desired to, he could have come to us and proposed a second location. I know he kind of deferred that decision to us, but I wanted, some of the people in the public I was talking to with that we're not pointing fingers, but we're just, give them an understanding of how the registrar's office works. And if the registrar wanted to, he could have early on in the year recommended an additional location. So is that correct? Am I speaking out of turn?
No, you are correct. Dr. Wilson, were you, I'm sorry, you were muted. I didn't know if you were answering him.
Yes, sir, go right ahead. The question that Commissioner Cathorn made. Hello? Hey, Karen, hold on for a minute, please. Hello? Hey, Karen, hold on for a minute. Okay, Commissioner Cathorn, I'm sorry, I'm trying to kind of dual task here, but we started this discussion back in early 2019. Commissioner Gage Watts was one that actually was very forceful in our discussions, and we met with the prior register of voter, I think a couple of times in our legal department. And then we met, once you made your appointment in December of last year, we met with the current register of voter in December of 2019, and we told them we would put the money in the budget for this year. So we've done everything I think we could do at this point, other than going up there and just picking a site and doing it ourselves, which we don't have the authority to do that. But we are all in favor. We have plenty of money in the budget to even do more than one site. But anyway, we had the discussion on the floor of the commission, as you all were aware of, and we couldn't come to an immediate consensus on a location. Now it kind of took time out of the equation, but we find ourselves where we are today because of that fact alone. So, but anyway, I'm not pointing a finger at nobody. I'm just saying, we have everything we need to be successful, other than the will to move forward on a location that we all could agree on.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I just often want to chime in so we give so there's clarification in the community. Yes, sir. As to some of the series of events, but we find ourselves where we're at right now. So we pray that our people are vigilant, they accommodated with water, seats, accommodation for the handicapped people, so we can get through this historic election. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Cathorn. Commissioner Braille, then Jackson, then Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Commissioner Epperson may have touched upon what I was going to initially say, but I'll reiterate it in my own words. This is to Dr. Wilson. Should we not engage our state legislators, our senators and representatives, to, along with you, to speak with the Secretary of State, because I'm not so sure that his respect for local government is what I'm really comfortable with. Not saying that he's not, but I know that if that's a state function, and being a former state representative, they have a tendency to listen to the people who are at the state level more so than those that's at the local level. That's just my observation over the years that I was there. The second thing is, have we not started, or can we start the process of setting up the early voting location for the runoff? Now, I know we're assuming that since the presidential election will more than likely be determined by then, but at the same time, if we have not started the process of setting up an early voting location after we have gone through all of this, I think that's something that we should consider. Now, if the thought is that the voter register, the register of voters office is so busy that they can't even start the process, that's one thing. But if you're talking about this 90-day maximum number of days to set it up, there are a lot of things that can be done without I'm sure without them having to get directly involved, that is approvals and that type of thing that can be done so that we can be assured that we will have a early voting location next time, regardless of whether it's this year for the runoff or for the next election. Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Burrell, I did have the opportunity to speak to the curator at the State Museum last Friday too. Who's the former state representative Thomas Carmody.
Very familiar.
Yes, sir. And we was talking about this very same subject, and he would say yes, the Greenwood location would have been an ideal location for it. And he went back and he looked at our previous held meetings and the video of it, and he said certainly he's kind of hoping we had to pick that site, but since we didn't, he's still saying it's available. So
well, Dr. Wilson, I think if we look at those meetings, I brought that information to you because he being one of my former colleagues and a good friend, he shared with me that the Secretary of State also looked at that site after they looked at the Oil City Museum site and did not see any problem with it. That's the reason why I shared it with you during the time that we were going through all of these deliberations.
Yeah, that's correct. I agree. I think for all intents and purpose, because they already have the hardware, the high-speed internet lines would have been the ideal location, second apart from the other location up in All City, sir.
Yes, I made that point too, being an old telephone man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, Mr. President, I appreciate you. Thank you. And it's good to see Todd back. I hope we all understand that COVID-19, the pandemic, the situation is real. And I want to always remind citizens that we are not out of the waters when it comes to COVID-19. I've heard a lot of comments being made as it relates to the early voting situation. I'm proud, but I'm also concerned, dually concerned. We did all that we could do from the parish, and I said that to everybody who reached out to me, and I said that, and I'll continue to say that. Since we're talking about what the law is and what the law is not, the law only gives the parish commission the ability to have a say in which location. And in that case, we turn it over to other entities beyond our control to implement. We turn it over to other organizations and entities to implement and execute those processes. I think we can go around and around and around to say what could have been done, what should have been done. My hope is that Mr. Sibley and his staff are looking at the lines and seeing. But what I will say is I've been on this body since January 2016. And as I have said in all my conversations, to Commissioner Gage Watt's credit, she's always brought this issue up with Mr. Roberson, and Mr. Roberson never took it serious. And if you all recall, we didn't select the current registrar until 2 weeks before the 2019 gubernatorial election. And so we selected a registrar 2 weeks before a major statewide election. And then after that, they had to conduct a runoff in November, December timeframe. So that was another election. We roll into January, February. Come March, we're dealing with the pandemic. And now we have a situation where in 2020, we delayed our presidential primary, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And so our registrar and his staff, and folks also need to be reminded that that is not a big staff. I think there are only 2 full-time workers on the registrar staff. Isn't that correct, Dr. Wilson? 2 or 3 full-time people.
Yeah, I believe they only have 3, sir, and the rest part-time employees.
And the rest are part-time contracted staff that are working there part-time. And so they've been busy. And this is not to make an excuse for the commission body or an excuse for the registrar or an excuse for the Secretary of State. But 2020, as I have often told folks, we've been writing this book as we read it. And we've never seen a situation where a presidential primary was delayed that should have taken place in March. Then they pushed it back to May, and then they end up pushing it back to July. 3 times it was delayed. And so the commission body did not agree on the site. We didn't even put it on our agenda until early July. And so we didn't get it done. By that time, September was here. Now here we are, August was here. I'm sorry, August was here. We get to September and October, and here we are early voting. So I just think that the door is now open. The ball is now in Mr. Sibley's court and Cal Art One's court to get the second site open. I think we should start having a conversation with our legislative delegation about multiple sites, because the law only allows us to have 1 additional satellite. But I would love to see satellites throughout our parish, somewhere in the northern part of the parish, somewhere in the southeast part of the parish. But we can only do what the law will allow us to do. And so I don't want folks to think that the commission body intentionally or deliberately set this up to where there was only 1 site. We have a responsibility, just like it's the district attorney's job to prosecute cases, not make arrests. And just like it's Shreveport's police department's job to make arrests and not prosecute cases. There are different roles that everybody has to play within what the law prescribes. And we followed that process. And the time only allowed for what we have right now. My hope is that maybe the December runoff, there will be a satellite. Maybe the March 2021 municipal elections, there will be an early voting satellite site. And so I hope that what we did this year, we don't have to go back over and start from scratch like we were doing with the previous registrar. We will always have to start it over. The other thing that I want to point out is that it took a lot for our ancestors to get us to this point. The march from Selma to Montgomery was a 5-day and very oftentimes dangerous journey that those folks took from Selma to Montgomery. And I just think that they would be proud to see lines of people standing up, not saying that we couldn't do better, not saying that we can't get better, because the greatest room in the world is room for improvement. And so I just think that as long as we're doing our job to make things better, Dr. Wilson, I passed by, I saw the lines, I saw the tents, I saw the waters. I appreciate those guys being out there and responding, but we can only do what we have the ability, the capability to do within the law. And so let's just be mindful of that. And we have a responsibility when citizens are talking to us. And I apologize if it sounds like it came off as chastising to anyone. But if we have folks who work across the street who could have just waited, then those are the people who I'm saying could have waited, not those folks. I will take responsibility for that. And so I don't want to come off as chastising anybody, but we have an obligation to educate people on what the process actually is, and not just say, well, you know, we ain't approve an early voting site. That's just not true. That's not what happened. We did our job and we stepped out of the way. This is the first registrar who has been open to a second early voting location. That's how you end up budgeting for it, didn't you, Dr. Wilson? Because he came to you and told you that he was open to that.
That's correct, sir.
And so this is the first time we've had a registrar who was open to doing that. And so I think we owe it to him at least the decency and respect to implement it in a respectful manner, but in a very efficient manner as well. That concludes my comments. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Actually, a very accurate and thorough timeline of that whole registrar process. So thank you for identifying that. Commissioner Cathorn, I saw your hand go back up. If you'll yield one moment, Commissioner Young has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
My hand is not up.
Okay, I saw you waving. I didn't know if you wanted to get on the board. Go ahead, Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to make a quick request from Dr. Wilson. First, thank you for setting up all the special accommodations for the long lines. I wonder if we could make a press release or advertise those accommodations somehow on TV or radio so that the public knows about them before they get downtown, so that they're not deterred from coming downtown to vote in the first place, or they can account for that when they decide whether to go and stand in a line, knowing there'll be a shelter, knowing that they can skip the line if they have a disability. I bet TV stations would be happy to share the word on that. And the second one is probably a lot less likely to be accomplishable, but I wonder if there's, so I heard Commissioner Gage Watts say that there were maybe 3 out of 14 machines in use. I wonder if we can find some space to set up a couple more machines, like in the same building, the Bickham building, which would be the same site, or perhaps in the courthouse right across the street, which would, maybe not be the same site, but perhaps we could get a emergency waiver from the Secretary of State, so that the line could be shortened by having more this time, but perhaps even for the runoff, I'd like to say.
Yeah, Commissioner Young, as I stated earlier, we have called the Secretary of State office and asked what emergency provisions they are for this situation. And as soon as we get an answer back, a conversation that we can have with them, I would definitely bring that up to see what we can do to alleviate the current situation. And then kind of make sure I have the register of voter in the loop on this process as well as we speak. So we will ask the question. Preferably, I'll get a call back. If not, I'll call back again in the morning and say I didn't get a call back from the day before and see what goes from there. But we will do the press release, sir, and let folks know that, we'll try to have those things available for them when they get there. And also, if they have a disability, they can go to the head of the line, and there's a person there that would orchestrate that. You're welcome, sir.
Commissioner Young, does that conclude your comment?
Yes, thank you.
Point of clarification.
All right, Commissioner Burrell.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of clarification, something that Commissioner Jackson brought up that it didn't set right with me in terms of the explanation. More than likely, he's probably more than likely correct, because Stephen does research his information. But basically, what I heard was that the Register of Voters has the authority to determine whether they want or receptive to an early voting site.
Yes, sir.
Is that the case?
Yeah,
that's the law.
Yeah, I would say so, sir. You're asking me.
Although we hire them, the state law said that they have the authority.
Yes, sir, and they're state employees as well.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Yes, sir, they're state employees as well.
Make the complete statement.
I'm sorry.
I want to make sure that I understand what you're saying, that the state law says that it is a responsibility of the Register of Voters to determine whether or not they want another early voting site.
My understanding of the way the election, that part of the election code reads is it's the responsibility of the registrar. They can get input from I believe the law actually says police jury, but in this case, the parish commission, on where. But that's it. After that,
not so much to whether or not there would be one.
They have to agree they have to be in agreement with. It has to be a mutual agreement.
Yeah, I think so.
A mutual agreement, let me be clear on this, a mutual agreement on whether or not there will be an early voting site established, is what I'm hearing you say. Not so much where the location is.
An additional site.
Yes, sir. And it's also by population. It's done by population as well. So there's a whole statute out there on, and what I would probably suggest is Attorney Frazier maybe sending us the statute or getting with Mr. Sibley to get that part of the election code as well. But my understanding and my reading of it is they really and truly don't even have to come to us. I think that was a courtesy that he granted, was that we would be a part of that.
Well, I guess in that vein, I can see why Mr. Roberts
yes, sir.
made a determination, and you all had nothing to say as to whether or not we should. But I would like to have that statute.
Yes, sir.
Woody, I would like to have that statute.
Yes, sir. We'll get it to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Mr. Everson, I see no other commissioners on the board with requests for information to Dr. Wilson.
Great. That brings us to commission remarks, communiques, reports, and other items related to the work session agenda.
All right. Any commissioner would like to make a communique or get on the agenda, please press the raise your hand button now. If not, we'll move along. Mr. Everson?
Sounds great. That brings us to President's report, if you had one.
I'll yield the bulk of the report, but Dr. Wilson, this is important. Make note, address 2154 and 2153 had a citizen call today that had some issues trying to get some cat traps out there, and he's been trying to call since January.
So 2153, what street, sir?
Waymon, Waymon. So it's 54 and 53. They're having a cat issue, and he's very upset. He's tried to call about 4 times, January, June, October.
Commissioner Chavez, could you text me his telephone number, sir? No.
I will, and just that way, when I do the report on Thursday, we can have our resolution of what transpired and get this corrected this week.
Yes, sir.
First I've heard of it today. Other than that, I'll send you that stuff. Mr. Everson, we'll keep moving.
Okay, there's no old business on the agenda today, so that brings us to new business. And our first item is 11.1, authorized introduction of ordinance number 6011 of 2011 in relation to zoning case 20-6-P. It's an ordinance to amend volume 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo as amended. I'm sorry, did I hear?
Second.
Move to advance from Adkins.
Thank you, Commissioner Adkins. And I believe Commissioner Jackson was that second. So we have a motion on the floor to advance till Thursday and a second by Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Adkins would like to speak on that.
No, sir.
Okay.
Well,
and I'll just note that
Commissioner Chavez, I will say it's listed as District 10. I thought this was like at the very border between District 9 and District 10, and that the southeast quarter would be District 10, District 9.
Don't try to steal some of my area. I need these guys over here. No, they I believe this one line it goes up into the very first area of Ellerby Estates on that right side is still District 10.
Okay.
But we
all
can
right, well, I apologize for jumping on your on forwarding your issue then.
Commissioners, this is the frontage road right there on Florida Lucas by the Forbeen Kroger. And what this house is asking is if they can convert a different zoning, which will just allow them to cut hair. I see no issues with it being that right across the street is commercial property, and these guys are right on the frontage road as well. Commissioner Johnson.
I'd like to englobo in advance ordinance 6011, ordinance 6012, ordinance 6013, and ordinance 6010.
Second.
All right. Got a motion to englobo and advanced all these ordinances up to 6010 by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Cathorn. Commissioner Johnson, do you want to speak on that?
No.
All right.
I would have did the last one, but I know that's going to be some conversation.
I agree. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Okay, and just so I make sure I got the right one, who was the second on that motion?
Cathorn. It sounded like everybody, but Cathorn.
That's why I had to ask. I heard a few at the same time. Thank
Beat him to the draw.
All right, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cathorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage West.
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Adkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes with 12 in support, none against. And that brings us to item number 6014, which is the authorization, I'm sorry, the item number 11.5, authorizing the introduction of ordinance number 6014 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay and the oil and gas fund in the amount of $750,000 to provide an appropriation for the construction and improvement of Greenwood water lines and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Recommend moving to Thursdays.
Second.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner Epperson to move to Thursday. Who is that second?
Hopkins.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. Commissioner Epperson, would you like to speak on that motion?
Just like to state that we met in the Economic Development Committee. I made a motion to attach this to the previous ordinance. And it was moved that we send both back to the Economic Development Committee, which they had some concerns relative to the original ordinance for the 1.1 million for the Blanchard water system. Upon perusal and debate and discussion in the Economic Development Committee meeting, we voted to separate the two. Of course, by adding a substantial amount for a monetary ordinance, it could not be tacked on to a previous ordinance. So we made a motion to separate the two. We discussed the two. We had the mayor from the town of Greenwood. I think we had an engineer to speak relative to the situation. I think some commissions had some concerns, which I think that they had the town of Greenwood and their staff had answered that information. And it was recommended that we would move this forward to propose an ordinance at this week's work session, standalone for that particular amount.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. I have Commissioner Adkins on the board and then Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Epperson, for that nice summary of the situation. I agree with everything that was said. I will point out the additional matter that to some of the commissioners on that commission, on that committee, there was some concern about the fact that the two projects might be at different points in their relative timelines, and that the North Caddo project was several people believe further along in its planning and funding process than the Greenwood project, but the majority of the entire committee was supportive of both projects moving forward onto the full agenda. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Adkins. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I was just going to say, I've had conversations with residents out in Greenwood. I appreciate Pastor Ellis calling. I've been out there to visit several times, and I'll continue to reiterate, I would much rather people find a place to stay in Caddo Parish than setting up shop in Stonewall or in Houghton, as those areas have seemed to have exponential growth. I'm pro-city, and I don't want anybody to think that this is something that encourages sprawl or anything like that. But there's a certain group and a certain, let me just say there's a certain individual who prefers to live in the city. I happen to be one. And then there's a certain identity or group of people who prefer a more suburban lifestyle. And I understand the needs for both here in Caddo Parish. And so anytime, and I know that access to water is typically access to streets, and water infrastructure is usually what is sort of the groundwork that is laid for that. And so hopefully these are the two things between Greenwood and Blanchard are things that we can get to see. I anticipate that this census will probably be Caddo Parish's lowest census count since probably somewhere in the 80s. And because the numbers have been falling steadily. And so anytime that we can do things to keep folks here in Caddo Parish, I think we should support it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Everson, I see no one else. Roll call vote, please.
And before I do the roll call, I do just want to, for the sake of clarity, just point out that the next item on our agenda under a different section is also relating to accepting those recommendations that were made during the Economic Development Committee meeting that y'all discussed the other day. Because of the order of the agenda, they seem a little out of order, otherwise, but they are in the correct place. Just wanted to address that in case anybody had any questions. Okay. Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cathorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes.
Commissioner Talaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Adkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion is adopted with 12 in support and none in opposition. And that brings us to communiques and committee reports, where you do have one voting item, which is the Economic Development Committee recommendations regarding ordinance number 5981. And I'll restate the Economic Development Committee unanimously voted to recommend the Greenwood appropriation be removed and reintroduced independently, as you just did with ordinance number 6014.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Yes, sir, Commissioner Epperson.
I would think that issue is mute now since we've taken care.
The reason that we need this action is because at your last meeting, you voted an amendment onto the other item, the item that's on the consent agenda, and we need a verification of the removal of that.
Okay.
Move to ratify. Move to ratify.
Commissioner Epperson to ratify. Who was that
Second. Second.
Commissioner Epperson.
That's it.
Okay. I got Commissioner Jackson and Burrell on the board, but I'm assuming you guys want to speak. So if anybody else wants to speak on this.
Well, we need to vote first, huh?
No, we vote.
Well,
vote on that.
Go ahead and vote. Mr. Everson, roll call vote.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cathorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes.
Commissioner Talaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Adkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, my hand was down for communiques. I thought.
Okay.
So
What I'll do is we have Commissioner Jackson, then Burrell, then Epperson. So go ahead, Commissioner Jackson, you have the floor.
Yes. I just want to go back to previous earlier conversation about my screen here. I just want it to be clear that when I come down to be a Caddo Parish commissioner between the hours of 3:30 and whenever we adjourn, I don't stop being an American citizen. My First Amendment right is not limited. When I walk in the chamber, my First Amendment right is not limited. If we were sitting in the chamber right now, I've sat in plenty of city council meetings where candidates have come with their t-shirts, they've come with their buttons, The only thing that has been prohibited has been their signage. I sit in city council meetings where folks have come in, candidates get up, speak, and they talk, and they'll have their shirt on. So our rights, and we, I've heard during these mass mandates about individual freedoms. And I want to be clear, my individual freedom doesn't stop just because I'm here on a 3:30 call here representing my constituents. So this is my account. And, I understand that we have different interpretations, and I'm willing to sit down. Commissioner Chavez, you are a witness that if I am proven to be wrong on interpretation, I'll admit I'm wrong. And I admit boldly and loudly that I'm wrong. But I do not believe that my First Amendment right, the freedom to choose, because the Caddo Parish Commission is not telling anybody to do anything. Commissioner Jackson has that right to do that. And so I just want us to be mindful of that, of our first. I've seen the comments in the Facebook comments and things like that. I think those folks are dead wrong. I have an individual right, a First Amendment right that's been upheld in the most liberal manner by the highest court of this land. Antonin Scalia, before he died, said the most fundamental and the most broadest right that a person has is the right to express themselves. Now, whether we agree or disagree on what's being expressed, that's different. But if somebody else puts something up that I did not like, that's not for me I can disagree with what they have up, but I cannot tell them they have to take it down. And I don't want anybody to think that, well, the parish is no. If I came to a parish commission meeting in my Stephen Jackson for Caddo Parish Commission t-shirt, as I have on numerous occasions, I would feel my rights were highly violated if somebody told me I couldn't enter into the meeting. Because that is not who we are as America. And our individual rights and freedoms do not stop just because we hold elective office. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. And I will agree, you are right. You have proven to be meek enough to apologize when you were wrong. Regardless if you and I agree or disagree on stuff. I'll definitely agree with that on you. Commissioner Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Several things I wanted to comment on. First of all, I was very reluctant early on when everybody was congratulating Todd on his apparent, hopefully, recovery, because I was, once I'm corrected or possibly chastised about, I wouldn't say breaking the law, but there may be some concerns. I know early on I had brought up the fact that
No.
Commissioner Hopkins
couldn't get home, so don't worry about it.
Okay. What I was saying is that I brought it before because I was concerned about Commissioner Hopkins. I made the statement in one of the commission meeting, how is he doing? And I was told that I was violating the HIPAA law. And I did talk with the attorney about it. And she did give me an interpretation of the reason why we don't even say that in the commission meeting. But I assume that since Todd is here now and he has stated it, which was one of the things that she mentioned, that if the person stated himself about their condition, then that would not be a problem. So I assume that because he is here and we can see him and he did bring up his illness, that it was okay to congratulate him. So Todd, I'm congratulating you at this point. That's the reason why I didn't do that earlier. I wanted to make sure that I was within the law. The second thing that I wanted to mention. And this may go back to Dr. Wilson. You know, we talked about the early voting site early on, but given the fact that we made a determination, as I understand it, being a new person in the commission, that there were 2 sites that we finalized. And I think it was one, if my memory serves me well, it was one up in North Highlands and one in Southern Hills. So I'm assuming those are the 2 sites then, if we wind up establishing one for the December runoff, then it would be one of those sites. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. I think your legislation asks the registrar to consider either one of those locations. And,
okay.
and I'm not sure, Commissioner Burrell, where Mr. Sibley is on that action. I'm being led to believe that that's been not his focus. His focus has been on the current election at hand. And because he still had to, he told me he was going to have to get with his committee, his board. There's a board of elections board. They will have to go out and look at those sites and give them his recommendation as well on whether those sites are adequate or not. And then they will make those recommendations to the Secretary of State's office.
Well, given what you just said, Dan, and all the other discussions that we've had on this issue, I guess I can pretty well assume then that we will not have an early voting site by this December runoff.
Unless the Secretary of State could address the issue at hand as we put forth this morning. Is there any provisions for an emergency? What can we do at this point? And that question needs to be answered by his office.
Because I was going back to something that was said that it would take 90 days, and
under normal circumstances, he's told me it would take 90 days. But we're asking for a reconsideration under an emergency situation. Does that make a difference? Can you shorten the time frame, and can you meet this immediate issue we have with the long lines and do something in the interim? That's the question we are posing now.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on the question, because I don't. Sure. The 90 days, I believe, is a maximum. And it's not
right. Under normal conditions, it'll take about 90 days. That's what he said.
The final thing that I have here is to communicate, is just to encourage our voters. I don't care how you vote, but to not let the early voting difficulties that we're having right now to keep you from voting. This is a very, very important election coming up, not only on the early voting situation, but also the November 3rd election. I think that, again, this is one of our will be one of our most historical elections. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir. My son, Sergeant Stephen D. Ware Epperson, just texted me and said, Daddy, tell them that we've been on COVID duty, we've been on flood duty, we've been on hurricane duty, tornado duty, and in addition to our regular training and now special training, because we will be deployed the first of the year. And I drove from Lafayette from my unit, stood in line 2 hours Saturday and voted and went back. Also, I'm confused. You know, the more this pandemic go on, and special meetings in the legislature to address things and certain acts to control our agenda, but I'm at the understanding, I think the city council allows, I think, Mr. Fleury to participate in addition with the in-house council persons. And I think there's some participation from the Metropolitan Planning Commission of one of the board members. So just confusing, but we just take it one day at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Attorney Fraser.
Yes, commissioners, as I told you all on last week, I believe it was, Senator Peacock had forwarded a bill to the Senate to try to get those restrictions removed regarding virtual meetings. And we got it out of committee successfully, but on the floor of the Senate, Senator Luno added an amendment that left the restrictions in and added a provision where the body would have to have a unanimous vote to put other things on the agenda other than those that fall in those three categories. Since that time, well, to give you the background, the reason for that was because the Louisiana Press Association and PAR had asked for those amendments to, or those restrictions to be placed in the statute and lobbied very hard for them not to be removed. And so we've been working with those organizations to try to come up with an amendment that might allow us to expand our agendas and get back to a more normal way of doing business via Zoom should it be necessary. And the amendment that they have come up with is to have it done by 2/3 vote of the body as opposed to a unanimous vote. So that will give some leeway to add critical and time-sensitive matters to the agenda that are not allowed under the current statutory restrictions if it is a virtual meeting.
Point of clarification.
Sure.
That's some great news. Go ahead, Commissioner Burrell.
I'm listening to our attorney. So am I to understand too, where before our chairman had to sign off on what goes on the agenda, if there is a 2/3 vote of the body of the commission, then we can have a Zoom meeting with all of the items that we choose to put on there. Am I understanding that?
Essentially, sir, that is correct. Those restrictions would still be in place for some of the items, but then anything that does not fall within those restrictions that the president has to sign off on could be ratified by a 2/3 vote of the body.
So I'm still hearing you say that we still need to split up the issues even before the 2/3 vote.
What you would do, Commissioner, is you would have certain items that are on your agenda that the president would certify meet the qualifications of the statute. Then you would have the other items on the agenda prior to the meeting. It wouldn't be an agenda addition, but what you all would do as a body would then ratify those items to be on the agenda by the 2/3 vote.
Okay, well, I'll take it over with you later. I think I understand what you're saying, but it's still kind of convoluted, in my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Cathorn?
Yes, I want to thank, we're glad to have Commissioner Hopkins back, and we're hoping him a speedy recovery. And to that end, you know, this whole COVID thing, we're not out of the woods. There's some talk about it picking up in about 17 states in the United States. And so I just want us as a commission body to be sensitive that coronavirus real, regardless of what's coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and that we should adhere to all of the protocols, wearing masks, social distancing, and so that our community can be safe, that we can get on down the road and fully be able to reopen the United States, the state of Louisiana, and the city of Shreveport. And again, we pray for a speedy recovery for Commissioner Hopkins. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Cathorn. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I know we've been giving thanks today. I would be remiss if I did not thank Dr. Wilson, but we did not thank Erica and Haley and the team for their work on our reimbursements for the CARES Act. I know that some things, there was the Sussler thing that didn't make it through. I hope we will still press wherever we can to get that through and to get that put, hopefully get them to reconsider. I see where East Baton Rouge was pressing for some as well. Don't know how successful we all will be, but we can't. They say you have not because you ask not. But I do appreciate that. I know our community will appreciate it as well. But I know they work pretty tirelessly to get the dollars out the door in a quick manner while also maintaining the right checks and balances, if that's a good word for it, to make sure that we did that well. So I didn't want to let us get by today with omitting that. So thank y'all for getting that done. And I know it was quite a task to do. So, and maybe if we could get just a comprehensive report at some point, not this week or any time, but just sometime in the future, a report on what all Caddo as a whole got reimbursed for, and hopefully there'll be a stimulus that will send some more resources and dollars to our communities with more flexibility. So thank y'all.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Jackson.
Thanks, Commissioner Jackson. Mr. Everson, I have no other commissioners under communiques.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Hold on one second, guys.
We do have citizens' comments, late arrivals. We had somebody holding, but I'm not sure they're still on the line.
Yeah, if they're off, we'll take up Commissioner Hopkins' motion.
Let me see if we can verify that real quick. Michelle, do we still have a caller on the line?
Hold on one second. Hello, sir. Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to put you on speaker. Go ahead and state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes, okay? All right, hold on one second. Okay, you can go ahead with your comment.
Okay, my name is Jack Mikey. The Sequoia, a business on the.
Is that our friend that calls each week?
Yeah.
I think we
Yes,
ought to
sir,
let
you can go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, my name is Derek Michael, and I wasn't allowed to speak, even though I was told to wait on the line. The week before that, somebody was banging like the furniture or something in the middle of the broadcast, and it really messed up the audio. Excuse me, somebody was talking. Somebody was talking. Do I start over?
No, sir.
Excuse me, is that part of my 3 minutes? Somebody interrupted.
Okay, we'll start it over from right here. Go ahead with your comment.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Anyway, there is a matter of the voting machines that are being used. They are exploitable in other places and banned in other places. There was actually an article that's blocked by this page by the social media handlers. I don't know if it's Michelle Patience of what, but yeah, they use the page moderation to block the link. And the link is themedian.com there's truth revealed. Anyway, the voting machines they're banned elsewhere because they were hugely exploitable. So yeah, that's pretty bad. And Mayor Adrian Hopkins owes $2,700 that he hasn't proven that he paid back, for the vehicle allotment. That is wrong. Eureka Fields, falsify freework.gov so that people can't make financial inquiries of even a Eureka Fields dome. Okay, that's wrong. Not denying citizens financial inquiry. Patients at LSU aren't allowed agreements process, nor are they allowed to get connected Hopkins to the governor. Hopkins illegally, his administration illegally bought the public outcrop of staff torture, the university police torture, because I told them they have documentation many times. So you know what? They didn't tell anybody. So anyway, as the person goes, the city of Shreveport page victims, the sheriff later victims, you can put up the communication. It doesn't do anything. Okay, when you report torture of elderly women at Austin Health Hospital. Okay, now the Caddo Sheriff's Office victims at Austin Health has replied on Twitter when it's outcry. They ignore everything on Google. On their site, they only allow you to send a message to them, but I have times where you have no electronic receipt, but you can't get a receipt for sending your complaint. Okay, and so there's a lot of people that's been abused. There's y'all are obviously ignoring it. The voting machines are illegal, have been in other places, and they should have been replaced. Okay, the government, these are government forums, and you know we were talking about rights and stuff like that earlier. You know, yeah, the freedom of speech says that I should be able to speak, speak on vote forum. Okay, finish report, Mayor Hopkins. Okay, Benjamin Brent, Keith Hansen, the ACLU Board of Directors Campaign Strategist, they all blocked.
Yeah, I believe your time is up now. Thank you.
Mr. Michaels? Mr. Michaels? Hello?
All right, that concludes the citizens' comments that we have for today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Everson. We can take up Commissioner Hopkins' motion now.
Move to adjourn.
All right, the chair will second. See you guys on Thursday.
Thank you all.
Thank you.